Welcome to Battle of the Ages.
Today we will be having a cook-off between a Victorian chef and a romantic chef. I'd like to welcome our romantic chef, Tiffany Donovan. Hello Tiffany, can you tell us what you'll be cooking today?
Today we'll be making, for appetizer, we will have some hot cross buns. For our entree we'll be having some quiche, and for our dessert we will have some Welsh cakes.
Sounds good, can't wait for it.
Should be great, thanks.
Introducing our Victorian chef, Alice and Bibi. What will you be making today?
I'm going to be making chilled cucumber soup. I'm also going to be making shrimp creole, and for dessert we're going to be having custard.
Fantastic.
Hi, right now I'm just working on cutting up a cucumber into thin slices. We've already quartered it, which means you slice it in half and then slice it down the middle, so you can scoop the seeds out. And after that you're just slicing it into thin slices. Cucumbers are pretty much an essential part of cucumber soup, so I would be very careful when you're doing this.
Cucumbers were used very often in this dish because they were very easy to come by in the Victorian era.
In the Victorian era, churning butter in households was kind of going out of style. Most families bought their own butter, but on small farms they still churned their own. So here we have our good old imperial butter, but this was obviously not a brand around back in the day. This is nutmeg. It's our last spice before cooking completely.
This dish was more commonly used in a modern household, and if it was prepared for such, it would be fine. However, if you gave this to a higher household, it would have had to be taken more finesse to the dish. Cut the herbs finer, a little less salt. Other than that, the dish is exquisite. You can tell it is the chunky form because the cream was not made in such a way.
I like the way that there was a lot of vegetables in here. It's always nice to have a vegetarian dish. It's pretty good. I really have no complaints about it.
And today we're making hot cross buns. It's going to be our appetizer for the judges. And what we're doing is we're going to put it into a bread machine and make a dough. And it's very important when making a bread in a bread machine that you put everything in order. So here we're going to start with 3/4 of water. Warm water, it's got to go in first. And then we're going to stick some butter in, about 3 tablespoons worth. Nice and, flop. It's going to melt right in there with that warm water. Now we're going to take a tablespoon of powdered milk. Some may say why, we say it makes it taste good. Okay, once we get done with that, then we move on to our sugar, a whole 1/4 of a cup in there. After our sugar, we move on to salt. We have 1/8 of a tablespoon. We're going to use 3 of them. 1, 2, 3. After that, we put a whole egg in there, just the egg yolk and the egg. And then we're going to add just another egg yolk, or not yolk, white. After the egg white, we're going to put 3 whole cups of flour in there without getting it everywhere. So we're going to go old school method. In this bowl here is 3 cups though. I'm just going to dump the rest in there. Okay. And then the very last thing we're going to add before we put it into the bread machine is the yeast, and that's a whole tablespoon of yeast. And the yeast is going to activate the bread and make it rise and make it basically bread. Okay, so once the bread has been on the kneading cycle in the bread machine, you pull it out with 5 minutes left in the kneading cycle, and then you're going to work with your fingers. You're going to work in a teaspoon of cinnamon and 3/4 a cup of currants or raisins. We picked raisins, and what you're going to do is you're going to work the bread, but you're going to work it gently and with a lot of love, because you don't want to flatten the bread or be too harsh to it so that it loses its breadness, I guess. We want to encourage the bread to grow with the best feelings that we can put towards it and just love it tenderly so that it becomes this amazing, yummy hot cross bun. Okay, now once your hot cross buns get done rising, the bread dough is going to come all the way up to about the edge. And you're going to take and flour a nice surface and flour your hands and just reach in there and pull all the stickiness of the dough out and get it onto the flour. As you can see, we have like more in there to get out, which is not going to be the easiest thing, but I guess it can be tons of fun if you like to get sticky. Just pull it out. There we go. That's beautiful looking. Almost done. Because you're going to want to use all the dough possible to get as much of the hot cross buns as you can. And then once we do this, we're going to slightly flour our hands again. And then we're going to push this down and flatten it out. You can see all the raisins and the cinnamon, and it just smells amazing. We're working on getting smell-o-vision so that you can smell it, but we don't know how well that's going over yet. And once you get it nice and flat, we're just going to cover it and let it rise for 10 more minutes. Okay, so now that we've let our dough into the little hot cross bun shape sit and rise, we're going to take our egg yolk from earlier, add 2 tablespoons of water to it, and if you have a little basting brush it works better, but you can just take your fingers, make sure they're clean, and just brush them gently over this. This is going to give them a nice shine when they come out of the oven and make them look pretty, basically.
Hot cross buns made on Good Friday were said not to spoil or become moldy during the following year.
Okay, so now once the hot cross buns are done and out of the oven, in order to get the cross on them, you take powdered sugar, milk, and a little bit of vanilla extract, and just, you know, once you've washed your fingers, take it and create the X across on the top. Now, hot cross buns were very traditional, and they were also very, like, symbolic. Hot cross buns were shared between 2 friends and said that it was a symbol of lasting friendship throughout the coming year. They were also taken on sea voyages as a symbol of protection.
During the Romantic period, it was custom to kiss the cross on the hot cross bun before eating it. So I'm going to take a bite now. It's really good. It's really sweet and savory, and they're supposed to last for a really long time, so they're really good.
I think it's quite remarkably prepared. For a simple dish only served before tea or before supper, or in any case, it has quite a lot going into it. Victorian seaports are what made modern shrimping today, which is how we come upon the dish of shrimp Creole.
Alright, so what we've done now is we've taken our shelled and thawed shrimp and we've put them in this pot with butter and flour. So we're waiting for the mixture to thicken now. And after that we're going to add these green onions. We have some garlic, cayenne pepper, thyme, and salt. And we also have some parsley. We add that all up, mix it together, and it should be kind of, I guess you pour it over rice. And that's your shrimp Creole.
truly exquisite dish, finely prepared. Enough meat. You would find this in any Victorian household at any meal.
Well, I actually like the use of rice and that there's a lot of vegetables in here, but I think there's always room for more vegetables, and I'm not really liking the shrimp. I would have preferred it if it was just a rice.
A fantastic.
During the Romantic era, as one of the courses, they would cook quiche because it's an easy dish to make and it's vegetarian.
Okay, so making the quiche today, since it's all a vegetarian quiche, since back during the Romantic time periods when vegetarianism really started, we're going to use all of these lovely vegetables in our quiche. So in order to start, you put a little butter in the pan, which we already did, and mix it around, which is tons of fun. And then you start by throwing in your yummy vegetables, which are going to get sauteed. So we got some onions going in here, some mushrooms, and you want to chop these up really small and finely because it's going to do a quiche and you don't want big hunks of things in your little pie of a quiche. So you keep them nice and small, that way you can still get the pretty yellow with all the different beautiful colors. So in here we've got tomatoes, onions, green bell peppers, and mushrooms. And now we're going to add some black pepper, salt, and cumin, or not cumin, curry. Okay, so now we're going to work on the egg part of our quiche. We have a fourth a cup of milk here. We're going to put a fourth of a cup of our Parmesan cheese in, and we're going to add 5 eggs, and then beat. And for this, you want to use the whole egg. Not drop it and crack it, because that would be bad. But I guess if you got a shell in there, no one would really know, because we got all those crunchy vegetables in there already. So we got our fourth one, and then one more. And I'm going to keep this one shell-free just because our judges, I don't want to kill them. Not yet, at least. And then you want to start just mixing everything up here, and you're going to want to beat this until it's light and fluffy. Now that our vegetables are nice and done and brown and golden, we're going to take these and add it to our little pie crust over here, hopefully without spilling anything or making too big of a mess. So here's our pie crust, all nice and pretty, and we've cut off the edges already, thanks to my lovely assistant. And we're just going to put this in here. Make sure we get every last little bit of beautiful color and golden brown. Put this down. Now we want to evenly disperse this. Look at that. Looks amazing, like a pizza without the sauce. And now we take our egg mixture that we just made and pour it directly over our vegetables. And the heat of the vegetables are partially going to cook the eggs, but we won't have to worry too much about that, because then we're going to stick it in the oven after this and bake for 45 minutes, and we should have a lovely quiche. Okay, so after about 45 minutes in the oven at 350 degrees, we have our lovely quiche. And now before we pull it out, we're going to stick a knife in there, right in the middle, and pull it out. And see how clean that is? That means it's ready. If it comes out and is gooey, we leave it in for about 5 to 10 more minutes, or until the center is no longer gooey. Now we're going to take this out and put it on our cooling rack and let it cool for a good 10 minutes before we cook it up, or slice it up, and serve it to our
This
judges.
is a very good dish with a variety of vegetables. It's a very good vegetarian choice, which is really common in the Romantic period, since that's pretty much all they did. I like it a lot. It's really good.
Very exquisitely prepared. You can tell all the ingredients were taken care of as they were placed in. However, for a Victorian dish, this would not be acceptable as a main dish, as there's no meat.
Okay, so today we're making custard, and what we've got in this little saucepan here is 2.5 cups of milk. You're just going to warm that until it's not bubbling, but it's warm enough that you know, like the edges are frothy here. And then you're gonna add 4 egg yolks, but not the egg white. Now, naturally, this is very wasteful to just use the yolks, so I would suggest making an omelet of some kind, rather than just throwing it away and wasting food. And then after this, what we're just gonna do is mix this up, and then we're gonna cook it until it's thickened out a little bit. The eggs will help thicken the mixture. And then we have sugar and heavy whipping cream to add.
Now custard is a very simple dish. Back in the Victorian era, it was used with eggs, although other substitutes were made, such as custard powder. This made the distinction between custard and pudding. Pudding is made with no eggs, it's not as thick. This we made with eggs, therefore it is actually legitimate custard.
So we've taken our custard off the heat. Now what you do is you just take it off the heat, turn the burner off, and you pour half a cup of sugar into the mixture and stir it until it's dissolved. And you can tell it's dissolved when you don't have anything that scrapes along the bottom. You can feel it with your spoon. And then what you do is you just leave it off the heat until it's cooled completely, and then you're gonna add a lot of whipping cream, 2/3 of a cup, and whipping cream is really thick, so you're gonna want something to scrape out of the bowl with, see? And you just pour that right in there. And then once you're done with that, your custard is finished. Just mix it up and let it thicken just a little bit more. It should handle it on its own. And then serve it.
We have our custard here in its finished product. It's a very easily prepared dessert, and it can be presented in many ways. We have our fruit here. You can put sugar over it and glaze over that, but we have the fruit, which I think is fine.
It tastes really creamy, very exquisitely made.
And finally, for our dessert, for this last portion, we're going to be making some Welsh cakes. So you start, as you can see here, we already have, with 2 cups of flour, 1/3 cup of sugar, 2 1/4 tablespoons of baking powder, and 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Now also to that, we're going to add 1/4 teaspoon of ground cinnamon. So that's 1, 2. And we're also going to add 1/4 teaspoon of ground mace. And this is going to give it a nice, just pop of flavor. And we're going to mix that together and move on to the next step. Once you mix all your ingredients of the Welsh cakes in your little bowl here and get it to like a doughy consistency, see how it's like actually holding together and everything, we're going to lightly flour our surface over here and just kind of like knead it for a little bit. It's mostly together though, so what we're going to do right now is we're going to flatten it out, almost like if you had sugar cookie mix and we're trying to make sugar cookies, you roll it out like that. So we're going to flatten it till it's about 1/4 inch thick. Roll it out, get all those beautiful colors. And then once we're done here, we're going to get our handy dandy either little cup or little cookie cutter, and then we'll move on to the next stage.
During the Romantic period, Welsh cakes were eaten with tea.
Okay, so now we're going to get our large skillet out. We put a little butter in there. We're going to let it melt around the pan once that starts to heat up. And once the butter melts, we're then going to take our individual little Welsh cakes and cook them in the butter on the pan for at least 5 minutes on each side, or until they're golden brown and pretty. So kind of like making pancakes, but it's more like cookie dough instead of pancake mix.
Romantic Welsh cakes are a good substitute for modern day scones. There's a lot of fruit in here, it's well cooked, it's very good.
The outside's baked nicely, but the inside's a bit doughy, and the orange peel in here makes the texture a bit crunchy. We've tallied the scores, but first, a quick review of tonight's meals. The Victorian meal, with its appetizer of cucumber soup, its main dish, shrimp creole, and the dessert, custard.
We rated each era based on accuracy, taste, and appearance. The Victorian era received a 9 out of 10 on historical accuracy.
Its taste received 9.5.
And appearance, 10 out of 10.
Giving it an overall score of 28.5 points.
As for the Romantic era, a chef cooked the hot cross buns, quiche, and Welsh cakes.
Its historical accuracy received 8 out of 10 points.
Its taste, a 9 out of 10.
And its appearance, 9 out of 10.
Giving it an overall score of 26 points.
Making tonight's winner, Chef Allison Beebe. Come on out.
Congratulations, Allison.